Please be seated. At this time, I call forward Jamie and Martin who want to say a few words on behalf of the family. I'll have to go right over to the cantor stand. I told I was supposed to grab out my seat during this.
All right, I'm going to have to read the whole thing just to get through it, but that's the way it's going to have to be. I've been Mike's friend since 1969. Thank you. I don't have to explain to you how he got Mike's name, Rabbit, but we all did that. But we worked together at Grand Valley Nursing Center as orderlies, and we became friends, lifelong friends. He introduced me to a great group of people from Caledonia, and many of them turned out to be lifelong friends also. Thank Mike for that. Mike enjoyed a good, happy, full life. His charming, warm personality carried him out through his entire life. He loved jokes. He had the memory of an elephant. He was a great storyteller. He understood people, was well liked by everyone who knew him. He loved being with his family and friends. He had a simple but God-fearing faith. Mike's career started right after high school, enlisting in the United States Connecticut Coast Guard for the next 10 years. Basic training was in Cape May, New Jersey, graduating 2 weeks late because he was sick with pneumonia. After graduation, he went to Governor Island in New York. From there, he went to Oregon for 2 years, then back to Governor's Island for 26 weeks of course to become a radio man. Then to Mobile, Alabama as a radio man. Until a radio man in Cleveland asked him to pray because he was from Mobile and wanted to be close to home. Mike, always the gentleman, agreed. In Cleveland, the radio man from Milwaukee called, asking Mike to pray because he was from Cleveland and wanted to be by his family. Mike, always a gentleman, agreed. He spends 2 years in Milwaukee, and after those 2 years, he goes to Hawaii, his favorite place. His most memorable time in the Coast Guard was in 1977. For 3 months, he was a radio man on a 378-foot man-of-war vessel, the largest in the Coast Guard fleet. The mission was to intercept foreign fishing vessels in the Pacific, checking their captain and licenses, often boarding Japanese, Korean, and Russian ships. One day, when Mike was on duty, he received a radio message from the Secretary of the United States, Cyrus Vance. They were to enter the Russian port of Boston for a goodwill tour. He passed the message on to the captain. On entering Russian waters, they were immediately surrounded by Russian destroyers and fighter jets. Everyone on board thought they were going to be the next Pueblo. Fortunately, things calmed down when Moscow finally relayed the message that a goodwill tour vessel of the United States Coast Guard would be entering their waters. In 1978, Mike is honorably discharged. In 1978, he moved back to Milwaukee and is honorably discharged in 1979 of 10 years in the service. He was proud of his military service, following in the footsteps of his dad and his older brother. In Milwaukee, he goes back to school and studies business and starts a job with Bear Investments. After 19 years in Milwaukee, he moved to Phoenix, Arizona in 1998, finding a job with Schwab Investments. Worked there for a while, then goes to Vanguard Funds, then goes back to Schwab, finally settles into the successful career at American Funds. He enjoys the good life in Arizona. New house, nice cars, golf, friends, girlfriends, everything a man could want. He retires after a while. When he retires after a while, his diabetes starts to limit his ability to see. He gets lonely and moves back to Caledonia and lives with Ann and Danny. He enjoyed being with his family and spending time with his dad. He loved his family. Robert McDonald passes away, and Mike's health begins to deteriorate. His vision gets so bad he stops driving. Neuropathy in his feet and his legs limit his mobility. He slips and falls, breaking his hip, winds up with COVID in the hospital. After a long, lengthy hospitalization, he is discharged back to his loving sister Ann. But he soon demands too much care for one person to handle, and he spends the next 15 months completely bedridden and blind. During this time, family and friends come through with loving concern for the dear friend Mike. A visitation schedule has started. Mark on Monday, Jamie Tuesday, Dave Wednesday, John Thursday, Randy Friday, and family anytime they want. Working in the nursing home comment meets more visitors than anybody here. We often talk about the good times, high school, parties, sport, politics, and faith. Mike, always a storyteller, with a great memory, always had a story to tell. We would pray together. One time when leaving his room, he yelled at me, "Mark, get back here. You forgot to pray." Holding hands with Mike and praying is something I will always remember. The last time I was with Mike, he was barely conscious. I read the following. Indeed, time picks our pockets. Vitality of youth surrenders reluctantly to the reality of aging, for Ecclesiastes. Our bodies, our tents get tired, but the tired tents not wait for a tired cup. Open heart need not fade as we age. Therefore we do not lose heart, as the Apostle Paul, the one who made our bodies to make himself at home, there through his Spirit. And when this body can no longer serve us, we'll have a dwelling not subject to breaks and aches. We'll have a building from God, an eternal home, the house in heaven, 2 Corinthians 5:1. Farewell, my friend. I'll see you Monday.
I appreciate, of course, we all do, Mark, that accounting of so many things. I'm going to speak only to the last 15 months, but it's, and I'm going to take a long time doing it. No. 2 Sundays ago, we had a guest preacher at our church who was talking about the interior life of a Christian. He was recommending and talking about the importance of memory verses. Well, I perked up a little until I forgot them. I've had a few of those over the years, and I keep a list. And that afternoon, 2 Sundays ago, Rabbit, still alive, I went looking for a new one, a little shorter, that I could remember, and I found one, and I really liked it, and I thought it was for me. And I think it was for us. It goes like this. It's in the last 2 verses, Pastor, of Psalm 27. I believe that I will look upon the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. I like that one verse. There was a second one that I thought was important too. Wait for the Lord. Be courageous. Let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord. So I worked on that a little bit in between things. Didn't really get it fully memorized. I have it now. And 2 days later, on a Tuesday, Rabbit passed on. Randy Ollinger and I were there in midday, and Rabbit couldn't communicate. I didn't remember thinking that verse was for him. I didn't bother with it. We prayed, we left. He died a few hours later. But one of the things that all of us struggled with in these 15 months was how to help Rabbit get back on his feet, seeing again. Another ophthalmology appointment, we thought. That'll do it. And we coordinated, and we would have meetings on the telephone, Zoom meetings, and we pushed. And that wasn't what Rabbit was doing. that was not what he was doing. He was gracious. Now, here's another thing about money. I'm sure many of you who are close to him have experienced this. He had some strong opinions, and he wasn't afraid to say them, and he'd correct you. He'd correct me, and I wasn't particularly used to that. It sounded a little like you, Ann. Yeah. He'd say, no. No. He'd sometimes use my name. No, Jamie. Okay. But what that tells us, and I figured this out during the next days and so forth, is Rabbit could make a decision. A lot of us don't make decisions. Sometimes we just can't even make them. We say, well, it depends. But Rabbit made decisions. And over that difficult time, he referred to it as his suffering, his time of suffering. He didn't over-dramatize it, but that's what it was. He heard the hound of heaven, who's had bloodhounds in this room, several of us, knocking softly, gently on the door of his heart. And he heard it persistently, and I don't know when this was, 3 years ago, 2 years, 4 years ago, I don't know. And Rabbit, who could make a decision, opened the door and embraced Christ, came back to the church, went forward in a new way. He did it. Boom. Done. And then, bless his heart, he'd tell us about it. Remember his birthday on August 22, we're all having some festivities and being our silly selves, and things are winding down, and there's a pause in Rabbit, who then was still in a wheelchair. The last months were completely bedridden, but he was also on that day, August 22, completely blind. He waited for a pause, and he wanted to say something. And he told us. He told us, don't worry about me. And we knew what it meant. And he went on, and not long, we got it. And at different times, I was honored, sometimes totally alone with him in our many visitation days or times. He'd tell that to me. He'd say, if my suffering, and he told it to a small group of us, Faye, Mark, several of us, John, if my suffering helps one person, it's all worth it. So he was there, and that's why he didn't respond to our wonderful suggestions. Wasn't I even saying if we could just get him in a wheelchair? I'm good with vehicles. And I was going to zip him down those hard floors and we'd have a ball. And he had a better plan. Wait for the Lord. Be strong, let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord. And Mark, we will indeed see him in heaven. That's our brother. That's our friend.
Thanks so much, Mark.